Hi, good evening. I'm Jason Iasatis, my show Outside the Box. Returning guest this evening, an amazing lady for truth, amazing work you're doing, Sandy. Sandy Adams, thanks so much for coming on the show again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. It was great. I bumped into you at the march on Saturday, and it was so lovely to see you again. And yeah, you said I'll come on the show, and here I am.
It's great, Sandy. You know, Sandy, you're an amazing researcher. This is why it's so poignant and timely now for you to talk about what you've been researching for the last 10 years, you know, Agenda 21, 2030. When you say that to most people, they go, oh, what's that, you know? But, oh, yeah, it's your slavery and your prison that's being built around you very, very fast now, and it's accelerating. And you don't have to know exactly how it works. You just need to know it's coming, right, Sandy? You don't have to know.
Yeah,
And
you
you
don't have to know the details because for anybody that doesn't understand, Agenda 21, 2030, it is a very complicated subject because it's actually been been implemented and infiltrated into every area of our lives for the last 30 years since the Earth Summit in 1992 and before. It was actually launched at the Earth Summit in 1992, Agenda 21, and it became Agenda 2030 in 2015 with 17 sustainable goals, United Nations Agenda 21, 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, which are being implemented now. Now, these goals look like it's going to be a utopian future because that's the way the United Nations sugar pills it and presents it to us. But you look behind what is really happening with these goals, and they look at them on the web. The 17 goals of sustainable development, and you will find them being implemented with quite a dark agenda behind them. And the only way I can explain it is that they want us to believe that they're presenting us with utopia, and in fact what we're being given is slavery and our rights are being taken away.
It's brilliant. Go on. Yeah.
Yeah, it is the Agenda 21 aims to really inventorize and catalogue every single thing on the planet and own it. So the United Nations basically want to own and promote global governance, which is what Agenda 21 will achieve, is global governance. And global governance, really, the very term itself means that it will be a global reset. And this is what the World Economic Forum are talking about right now, because the United Nations, the Club of Rome, the World Economic Forum, and the World Bank, the IMF, all of them have kind of collaborated with this to create global governance. And this is to be achieved by 2030, which isn't far away. This isn't a conspiracy theory. I mean, Agenda 21, here it is. You can still buy it on Amazon. And these documents, really lay out exactly what they want to do. And what they want to do, the end game, is to create smart cities, which are being created now, and some of them are almost completed. I mean, the development that's going on, I mean, London is a preferred development area. The building that's going on in London and the destruction of council housing in favour of these very smart stack and pack sustainable development and sustainable housing skyscrapers, if you like, is extraordinary. And of course, all the infrastructure for the smart city has gone into London, Bristol, Liverpool, Manchester, all the big cities, Glasgow, all the big cities, and all of this will be controlled by the Internet of Things. So everything is connected, and the surveillance is kicking in as well. And this was all something that I was talking about 10 years ago, and everybody thought we were all nut jobs. I mean, Piers and Mark and I have been on the road for over 2 years until the lockdown, talking about all of this, and we were considered to be nut jobs. But actually, this virus, this whole thing with this virus, with COVID-19, has almost fast-tracked the implementation of the surveillance and the control. The control grid is now really set. And we can all see this. And it's actually helped people to wake up. And now people are saying to me, now I know what you're talking about. Now I know what you were, we weren't sure, we were going around, doing these talks. And I've had people come up to me saying, I'm so sorry, I ridiculed you. I didn't mean to. I didn't know that this is, this is what's been happening in my own town. I did talks here, where I live in Somerset, and a lot of people turned against me over it and thought I was being negative, B, making it up, C, a conspiracy theorist, whatever. But now people are seeing that it was all based on fact. I mean, there was no conspiracy about it. I mean, this book here, I've got one of the only ones in the world.
Hold it up further.
This is the Global Diversity Assessment, and this is the action plan of Agenda 21 put into action in 1997, and this cost $3 billion to produce, and it was commissioned by the United Nations, and the IPCC put a lot of work into it as well. The Independent Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that was created out of this. And the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change were pushing the whole climate change agenda, because at the end of the day, United Nations created the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change to push anthropogenic global warming, which was used in the same way as the virus is now, as a fear tactic. If you don't do this, the world will end because of global warming. And now we've got, if you don't do this, the virus will spread and everybody will die.
You don't do this, you won't get this. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm seeing the same people are pushing the same agenda. You've got the same people behind the climate change agenda as you do behind the pandemic agenda, pushing the same kind of control mechanisms. So, it's obvious that this is, this is something that is, but worse than that, I mean, the pandemic is creating exactly what the World Economic Forum want, which is a financial meltdown, because they want to reset it. They want to reset the whole global economy.
Cashless.
I've got a quote here from the World Economic Forum. Yeah. Says here, is our love affair with gross domestic product coming to an end? As the business landscape reinvents itself, demographics shift, inequality expands, climate change gets worse, and technology advances at breakneck speed, GDP is struggling to stay relevant. Well, this is how our economy works, isn't it, GDP? What do we do without it? In order to keep up with the changes wrought by the fourth industrial revolution, here we go, this is what XR's been talking about for a long time. Many are arguing that we need to find a new measure to assess the health of our economies, and more importantly, the people living in them. We're examining the past, present, and future role of GDP and the new economic models that could replace it. And then they say, the World Bank and the IMF are being asked to throw away their rule books to save the world's imperiled developing economies. But when the pandemic passes, a fiscal reckoning in some form will be essential. After all, the bill for the pandemic will one day fall due, and governments will need to be far more certain than they are today that businesses and individuals will be able to pay their fair share of tax. There you go. This will occur in a global governance environment that was already changing radically owing to the impact of digital technologies. Now, so what they're saying is, it's the right time to push this whole digital technology forward, which was anyway. We're just pushing it forward a little bit more. So they want the Green Deal brought in, which is a green economy. But worse than that, humans. Can you hear me?
You're breaking up there, Sandy, a bit. Hang on a sec. Just wait a sec. Let me just try something. Hang on. I've got a little cough. It's nothing too serious. Oh, I know what it is. It was just someone tried to call me. That's what it was, I think, yeah. I think that's what it was. Sandy, you there?
Yeah, Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear now?
Yeah, it might have been someone just tried to call me. You are breaking up there a little bit. It's a shame because you weren't just now. I'll tell you what I think it might be, Sandy. I've got a couple of YouTube clips lined
Oh,
up
right.
of
Do you want to
Piers.
do those first?
If I do those
Yeah,
first, and then
yeah,
I can
yeah,
scrap them
yeah.
off then,
You
and then
get
it might be
David.
draining. So
Yeah.
this is the clip. We want to say what a saint Piers Corbyn is, and what a saint David Icke is. And I was
Oh,
up there filming in
those
Trafalgar
two,
Square,
brilliant. Yeah.
and I was up behind the stage there with him, and
Yeah.
it was lovely to give David a lovely big hug. And what a
Yeah.
lovely man, and that man is a saint, and so is Piers Corbyn.
Yeah.
So this is Piers Corbyn literally getting dragged away, and then I'll just do a quick one of David Icke on the stage there, Sandy, and then we'll get back to you because I think you've come back okay now. In a second, so I'll just try and get these up. Just 1 second, because we need to honor Piers.
We do.
What an amazing man.
Yeah.
Right, let's see where he is. If I can just find him. Sure, there we go. Okay, here we go. Piers Corbyn being arrested. Thank you very much. Here we go. Again.
Now, he was targeted because it was almost like a trap, you know. That's incredible. All those people for one 70-year-old man. Ridiculous.
There you go. About 20 police to arrest Piers Corbyn. It was amazing, wasn't it?
Yes. You should be proud.
My God.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that
I'll just stop that there. Go on, Sandy.
Yeah, he was. I did speak to him after that. They released him at 1:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
And anyway, he maintained that the reason why they arrested him as the organizer is that he was required to do the paperwork to actually get the event going, and had permission to actually hold the event.
Right.
But it's almost as though they used that against him and arrested him as the organizer, which I think is
what was the law they brought in the day before? Can you remember?
I can't remember. No, I don't know.
It was some kind of law whereby suddenly you weren't allowed to have more than 30 people or something like that. And if you did, you'd be arrested and fined £10,000 or something like that. It's like, oh, let's just chuck that in before Piers goes on and then we can get him, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And the other thing that I found interesting was that I had an analogy of like when you see antelopes running, lots of them, there's a pack of lions can't pick anyone off. There's too many of them, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happened in London. There was so many people that the police they couldn't do anything anyways. And that's what we need to start doing, you know.
It was interesting because I stood by the police at one point because I stood by the police, and I heard one of them speaking into a walkie-talkie saying there's too many of them, we can't break it up. Now that for me was key, because if we get 50,000 in the Trafalgar Square on the 26th, which we'll be talking about later, you know, it will be very, very difficult to do anything. They just won't be able to do anything. And, you know, that is what the whole thing is. It's a numbers game. And, you know, we are many, they are few. They have to listen to the people.
I'll put that poster up now while you're talking about it. There it is. We do not consent. Saturday 26th, right?
Yeah, the 26th of September. In Trafalgar Square, be there or be square, and yeah, it's another rally for our rights and freedoms, and against the global governance and the control and the surveillance that we're being put under, and the vaccines, you know, and the mandatory vaccines and the masks. You know?
And let's make something clear here. We're not troublemakers. We're trouble exposers. So we know what's coming down the pipeline. We know you wear these masks and you comply and you stay in your house when there's a lockdown. Look at I won't go on about them here. I talked about them last night with Nick Colstrom. But the figures, I think even the New York Times, John Rappaport was talking about it today with Alex Jones. The figures, even the CDC and the New York Times now are saying, well, hang on a minute, these false positives on these tests. And what was that guy who actually made the tests himself, the PCR tests, said you shouldn't use these for they're not reliable. So most people who get tested are coronavirus positive, and they're not even got nothing wrong with them. And they're putting debt on the death certificates. People get knocked over by buses and stuff. This is one of the biggest unbelievable overreaches of numbers I've ever seen in my life. So people
Yeah.
are wearing masks for nothing. The nurse who came on my show, there's not one COVID case in Torquay Hospital, Plymouth Hospital, and Exeter Hospital. Not one. You can see that an interview I did with her about 3 shows back. She came in here with a nurse's uniform and said, Jason, I've got to speak to you. I've got to tell you something, but I can't go on camera. It was absolutely unbelievable. So, my God, if people knew, there'd be riots. So the reason we're doing this is because to secure people's freedoms who haven't been born yet, right, Sandy?
Exactly.
I don't want to do this. Do you want to do this? I don't want to do this, Sandy.
Well, you know, I've got 2 grandchildren, and this isn't the world that I really want them to grow up in. And it is, I mean, particularly what's happening in the education system. And if anybody really wants to do their research into the education system and pertaining to the human capital bonds, look at a lady called Alison McDowell. She has a lot of stuff on YouTube about human capital bonds and how this is working in the education system, where you have surveillance of children from naught to literally from cradle to grave. You know, from the moment they're at play school, surveillance play tables where they're monitoring the behavior of children. And everything is logged, and this is all eventually going to link up with the blockchain. Now they're calling this they're calling them impact investing and human capital bonds. So the impacts investors invest in human capital, and the human capital, that whole idea is to create the perfect global citizen. And if you like, it's a bit like futures, only betting on outcomes of human beings. And the ones that fall down the wayside are the ones that the investors don't get their money for. So all the time they're surveilling our children, and this is being set up right now, and this could be the end of bricks and mortar schools. This is what Alison is saying in America, the end, because she's done a lot of research into it, the end of bricks and mortar schools, so that the children will be literally having bots teaching them on computers, and that all of their information, including their personal information about their families, everything will be logged. And all of that will go into a sort of surveillance wallet, which will somehow be linked up to their access to the blockchain. So it will create some sort of 2-tier system, and there'll be some people that will fall by the wayside of that and won't have access to the blockchain, to cryptocurrencies, because obviously it will all be cashless. So it's almost, they're looking at them and they're working out who are the leaders, who are the followers, who have empathy, who don't have empathy, and placing those into positions of power. And you can look this all up. Steve Rothschild put this all together in a white paper on human capital bonds and impact investing. And it's actually been trialed here at Peterborough Prison. So this is something that anybody can look into. And I think I've put, if I haven't, I'll be doing it this weekend, putting Stephen Rothschild's white paper on human capital bonds onto my website, sandyadams.uk, because I'm particularly worried about this, because this is owning our children's souls. And there won't be any room for the arts, for beauty, for anybody to follow their dreams. This is all about fitting in to this Chinese credit system type future that really doesn't have any room for beauty or art or joy. This is something that it's not a human agenda, let's face it.
I spoke about it in Birmingham when I spoke with Dr. Adil and Piers Corbin up there. You know, it's what it is, in my opinion. Now, it's just, I mean, we're being physically enslaved, but it's a spiritual emergency now. I think our spirits are almost being taken. Now, there's a lot of people watching this that say, "Oh, come on, Jason and Sandy, you're just old-fashioned. Of course, it'd be better if we get rid of bricks and mortar and schools and kids can be. Of course, it'd be better for this." But the problem is it's all good and well, and we're not just looking for things that aren't there. It's like, oh, they're conspiracy theories. They're looking at this. It's all written down and planned.
It's all planned.
Most people haven't got the time and the energy to look at it, but believe us, it's there. Yeah. It's coming down the pipeline and accelerating 1,000-fold now with this corona blowing malarkey. But, you know, I said to someone the other day where was I? I was in Glastonbury somewhere. Where was I? In one of the shops there, in a sweet shop in Bath. And I said to the lady, there was a plastic screen and she had a plastic mask on. And I tried to give her some cash. She said, no, we're not taking cash. I said, well, anyway, cut a long story short, I said, you know where this is going, don't you? I couldn't resist it. I wasn't being horrible to her. I said, they want cashless society. Then the next thing's a little microchip. Nick Rockefeller used to tell Anna Russo about it over dinner. We're going to microchip humanity. And she just looked at me blankly and said, well, perhaps it might be better, Well, look. If it was for the right reasons, maybe a little watch or something, but it's for the wrong reasons. It's to enslave humanity, and it's been planned for thousands of years. And that's why I love David Icke, because he's been warning people about this for decades and decades and decades, And that's why he got such a good response, wasn't it, Sandy? People were loving him and hugging him. And can I play that quick clip now?
Do it, because I love it. It's such a brilliant vibe there. Yeah.
I mean, look, we can't play the whole lot because it's going to take too long. But I'll just do a little snippet of it where he was shouting. Hang on, where are we?
Stay in your homes. No. Wear a mask. No. Let your kids be psychologically dismantled. No. It is time. It is well past the time where we learn the lessons of history. The entirety of human history is one of the few controlling the many, because the many acquiesce to the few. Enough! Enough! Freedom! Nothing less. And I say to the police officers that are policing this, you have children, you have grandchildren. You are enforcing the fascism which your own children and grandchildren will have to live with. Join us, for goodness sake, and stop serving the psychopaths.
It's hard to turn it off. Let me just turn it off. Yeah, it's very hard to turn it off because it was so inspiring. And 30 years, I went to see him 30 years ago in Bath, actually, and there was hardly anyone there,
Yeah.
And there he is, and he was the nutcase. And like yourself, I bet people are saying to him now, in fact, I know they are, they're saying to him, David, hey, and I'm waiting for some of my family to say it to me. Like, look, I am a nutcase because I'm an artist. I am.
Well, yeah, we're all a bit nutty because we think out of the box, and I've always been an out of the box thinker, much to my family's.
Yeah, and we see things and we feel things, and well, there we go. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I've warned people till I'm blue in the face in my writings, in my books, in my talks. If we don't create another different system to this without government control, one day when it collapses or is purposely collapsed or controls to bring you down, then we'll be like Oliver Twist with our bowls, begging for food. And people laughed at me. And look at it now outside the supermarkets. Not only we're like begging for food, it's like we've got to be 3 meters, 6 foot apart. Yeah. So, and there's more coming. There's probably another lockdown coming. And the urgency for people like Sandi to talk about Agenda 21, 2030 now is to warn you what's coming. And if you don't say no to the lockdown this time, and no to masks, but moreover, no to lockdown. We're not going to be locked down. We're coming out in the streets. We're not going to stay in our houses. If you don't do that this time, you'll regret it for the rest of your lives. Look at Australia now, Sandi. Have you seen what's going on there?
Australia is what's happening in Australia is diabolical. It is under strict martial law now, and I'm told we're in the third stage of martial law. I don't know how many stages there are, but it's not as bad as Australia at the moment, but you never know what's going to come in this winter. And I do believe that something is going to come in this winter. What it will be, we don't know. I mean, they've warned it. I mean, Bill Gates has smirked about it. Oh, the next one, well, that'll get some attention, he said, and smirked on YouTube. So the thing is that, you know, I did write an article on the zoonotic disease, because the word zoonotic kept cropping up in the news. You know, they were talking about you know, diseases coming from animals and crossing over to humans, and then I thought, you know, I've always wondered, because at the moment that what's happened with the coronavirus is that people have left the cities, and I've noticed it where I live. It's a rural place, and all the people are coming out of the cities to be here. They're renting houses because they don't want to be in the city.
Bloody
and
hell,
so,
can't they?
yeah. And I thought, well, how are they going to get them into the smart cities, you know? And I wrote this article saying that, in my view, I thought, because I went onto the United Nations environmental program on their website, and sure enough, they were saying that the next wave could come from the countryside, from livestock, from this, from that, and this could be a push to get everybody out, you know, into the cities again. And bless him, David Icke did publish that on his website and quoted it for me on a radio show. But how do we know? That's just me surmising, simply because I read it on, you know, usually they tell you what they're going to do. It's predictive programming. They tell you what they're going to do, and it looked to me as though that could be an option of creating something so deadly in the countryside that it will get everybody out. Who knows? Well, you know, this is an evil plan. We don't know what the hell's going to happen, but it was something that resonated with me, because it was so clear on the United Nations website, on their environmental program section, that they were saying that the countryside is a very dangerous place for human beings, and also human beings destroy the countryside. So basically it ticks all the boxes. Yeah, unbelievable.
It wasn't that long ago, Sandy, where people would never believe this, but now they've had a whiff of slavery, and a whiff of being in the house, and a whiff of a slap, and I think it's been an incredible thing. I'm not joking. I've noticed some of the people that I know, and I'm not being too judgy, were quite sort of snobby, you know, and sort of aloof and things, you know, because they had a bit more money than other people or something. They had that smugness slapped off their faces for a few months. Slap, you know. Yeah. And people have reassessed their lives. They've reassessed their relationships with themselves, with other people, the jobs, the slavery, and it's like, my God, so in one sense it's backfired on the system, because people have had a sniff of freedom now, and they think, I want my life back. I want my life back, you know. So what was that one you showed in I came to one of the conferences you did. Is it here? It might be here. Hang on a minute, Sandy. I'm not sure if it's here now. I did have it here. It was let me see. Sorry, Sandy. Let's see if it is still there. I don't think it's still there. It was that map you had, remember?
Wildlands map. I don't have a copy of it here, but it is on my website. Do go to sandyadams.uk. It's this came, the whole thing about rewilding, the whole thing about the depopulation agenda, which we're witnessing now, sadly, and we could talk about that, about the DNR notices.
One thing, Sandy, I want to just say, sorry, and don't forget, everyone's got to remember something. This is murder. I mean,
it's genocide, yeah.
Genocide, the false figures that they've put out, there's people dying of despair, there's people in India dying, they can't get any food, there's no work, there's people in South Africa dying, this is absolute genocide. Sorry, Sandy, go on, yeah.
And it's happening in our care homes and our hospitals at the moment as well, I'm afraid. In 1997, I showed you this huge tome.
What a book that is, you know.
This was created by the United Nations, and it's the Global Diversity Assessment. And in there, on page 933 or 993, I can't remember which page, they talk about the human settlement zones, which are the smart cities. They call them smart cities now because it's got to sound good. Human settlement zone sounds a little bit more restrictive. And the idea is to have everybody living in these human settlement zones and to rewild the countryside so that humans don't have access to the countryside, because let's face it, we humans, we destroy everything, and we're not good. And in the Global Diversity Assessment, they talk about the Wildlands Project of America, which came out of this book. And the Wildlands Project, there's a map on my website, and it's the Wildlands Project map. And it shows most of America as being color-coded in red and yellow. And red and yellow are the main colors. Now, that is where the people are not allowed to go. And then you've got these dots, which are the human settlement zones or the smart cities. And there's a bigger concentration around California. Now, this is actually happening in America now. The zoning is going on, and Rosa Corey will tell you about this, because they've created these zones, and there's corridors where people aren't allowed to go. And if when I discovered this, 10 years ago, I thought, this could happen, but I'm sure we'll stop it before it does. And of course, it's been pushed in incrementally, because Agenda 21 is a global, or Agenda 21 2030 is a global agenda, and it's happening in every country, in the same way, where it's in every town council in every country in the world, and all those planning laws have been designed to accommodate this agenda. And it's against the will of the people. And there's an awful lot of states actually overturning the Agenda 21 laws in America, because they've got wise to it. But unfortunately, California, very, very liberal. They let it all happen. And I'm sure Rosa has spoken to you about it. She has been the most amazing voice in America about Agenda 21. She inspired me to talk about it. She's an amazing woman. And she was a land appraiser, and she was seeing land being seized all over America, or particularly in the Bay Area where she was working. And she realized that it was being seized under UN Agenda 21. And this is what it's all about. And this is the seizure of land is happening. The whole agricultural policy that we now have in place is going to disarm farmers. Small farms will be disarmed if this continues in the UK. They're on my website also. There's I think it's the agricultural section. I've got a white paper which was drawn up, and it's called the Agricultural Working Policy Group for the food and drink sector, and it's literally an expose of the future of farming, and it is about getting farmers to rewild their land and to take the land away from the farmers and create mega farms. And it also says that farmers won't be able to hand down their farms to their sons and daughters. This has to be, no, seriously, it's all there in this document. And it was a direct document from government to the Agricultural Working Group for the food and drink sector about how we intend to create farming in the future. And it's all a green agenda, because farms will be electrified. They will. There's a whole thing about creating insect biomass as a replacement protein, because they want to decrease dairy farming and sheep farming. And also there's this section where it talks about how the mega farms will be run by people who have been to college and learnt about the AI that's going into the farming, into the mega farms. So everything will be electrified, run on AI.
And 5G, yeah?
5G, absolutely, 100%. And that the people that are running these will have to be educated in all the AI, so that farms cannot be handed down from father to son anymore. So most of the farmers are already being encouraged, and it's happening on the Archers, to rewild their land. And it's biodiversity. It's all for the good of nature. Of course it isn't. This is all sugarcoating to make us believe that we're having a utopian green future. We're not. We're being created. They're creating a slave race who will be living on insect biomass. This is not good.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's the good news from tonight from the Jason Leosalis show.
I'm sorry, how do I manage to
Look, Sandy, listen, let me tell you.
We can defeat this. I mean, I wouldn't be here talking about this awful stuff, which I've done for 10 years, if I didn't think, and the only reason I'm doing it is so that we create a resistance against it. And that's the only reason I'm doing it. My son said something funny to me the other day. He said, "Mum, you're the most positive person I've ever met. How can you spout out all this negativity?" And I said, "Because I know we're gonna win."
Right. Yeah. Well, the thing is, as you were just saying that, I just scribbling a few things down, and I get a lot of people coming in here and telling me how depressed they are. It's like a sort of doctor's surgery. I'm going to start charging, I'm sick of it. They leave after about an hour and I don't get nothing for it. I said, well, hang on, wait, don't go. That's going to cost you 150 quid, But what I always say to people is, and you've heard me say this, Sandy, is like that, those feelings you feel inside and not, something's not quite right, and you feel a bit unsettled, you feel a bit depressed. Well, what I say to people is when they start understanding, or a little bit understanding about what you know, Sandy, right?
Yeah.
Then what I think it does, I say to people now, what I think it does, it actually lets you off the hook. It almost is not negative. It's very enlightening and enriching, because it's like it makes you realize that you were right to feel depressed and like something was wrong all your life when you were in school, sat at that desk all your life, or when you went in that job, sat there and paying bills, and 100%. You only just got enough money to pay the bills. And it's like, it's almost like when they start educating themselves about what you're talking about, it's like, I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
It's not my fault. Of course I was depressed. Of course I was pissed off. Of course I was bloody angry, So, of course I was bloody angry, and I held it all in. So it really is really enlightening to know this stuff. And that's all. The only reason I can handle knowing about it, and I know a fraction of what you know about it, is because it makes me realize I knew something was up.
Yeah.
For all my life, I didn't feel right. And everyone, if they're really honest, Sandy, they all keep this little secret and they don't talk about it. I don't feel right. Well, if you felt normal, you'd have to worry about yourself. But we become used to it. It's like having shackles on. You become used to dragging this ball and chain behind you and having this sword of Damocles swinging above you like, can I pay the bills? What's going on? It's slavery, ladies and gentlemen. Gurdjieff said, until you can understand the prison and nobody, you can never escape. So what Sandy's doing, and Rosa Corey and others, are trying to explain the prison to you so you know what's coming down the timeline. And then you can sidestep it and create something differently. It's like playing chess. It's bonkers,
It is, yeah. I mean, it is. Agenda 21 aims to literally own every resource on the planet and manipulate it in the favor of those who are in control. And, this is the way they're doing it. They're this is why they're in Africa, because it's a very resource-rich country. Agenda 2040, they called it, was all about, sort of it's neo-colonialism, actually, but it's run by massive corporations and billionaires. So it is a form of neo-colonialism, and it is a diabolical agenda. And we have to, and people are waking up to it. I mean, 35,000 people and more in Trafalgar Square last week was almost like a dream come true. It's not on the scale of Berlin, the 3 million, I believe, in Berlin, wasn't it?
3 million, yeah.
If we could get to that stage. And there is sort of a strange little things happening. I mean, the doctors and nurses are very, very important, the whistleblowers. But there seems to be another event happening on the 19th, which is just the doctors and nurses, which in my view, you can't have two events in 1 week. And maybe the doctors and nurses, that whole thing should be done separately as a petition to Parliament. Because they have the information, they are the professionals, and they can face Parliament and ask questions. But maybe the big rally should be the 26th, when everybody meets and gathers in the same way we did on the 29th.
Is Piers there on the 20?
Yeah, the 26th. He's not there on the. The other one. there's a bit of confusion at the moment because there is another rally, and the last thing we want is division. I mean, that is the last thing we want, and I would hate to think there was any kind of division. But it's just my humble opinion that what would be good would be some kind of press conference with the whistleblower doctors, and this could be something, you know, if people are listening, that they could engage with. You know, have a separate PR campaign or press conference directly with Parliament, with the whistleblowing, you know, with the whistleblowers, the medical whistleblowers, because there are a lot of them, and what they need to say is very important. Why is there a blanket do not resuscitate orders in our hospitals and our care homes?
What's that about, Sandy?
Exactly. It's a blanket do not resuscitate. Anybody of any age who goes into a hospital now will be asked to sign a do not resuscitate order.
Why?
Why? That has never happened in our hospitals. No, these questions have to be answered. And why, you know, why, when we've got declining figures, are our hospitals still not functioning at any capacity? And why are there, you know, people that, why have the care homes had such a terrible time with record number of old people dying in care homes? This is genocide.
We can't even go and see my partner's mother. Well, we could.
And they're dying on their own.
Yeah, we could. She's in a house on her own. She hasn't been out since the start of this, right? Because I suppose there's a thing. She can't get on very well, but she. I mean, we want to go and see her, but the paranoia that this has created around people's families. I had a family in here with their mask on yesterday or the day before, and I said, "Oh, look, take your mask off. It's okay if you don't want to, you know." And they said, "Oh, we're trying to get used to it." And another 2 people came in today and they said the same thing. 2 young, bright people. They said, "We're trying to get used to it. Trying to get used to slavery. Trying to get used to shadows." But you know, if they're watching the 6 o'clock news, Sandy, then they're just trying to do the right thing. It's like, well, okay, they think there's a huge pandemic, and there's actually not.
It's not. It's the biggest psychological operation ever. That's been foisted on the globe. I mean, unbelievable. I personally have not worn a mask anywhere, and I haven't been challenged.
Ever. I walk in.
And it's funny, I feel like the black sheep in a flock of white sheep when I go into, or maybe it's the other way around, into Sainsbury's or Tesco's or whatever. And nobody has ever challenged me, and I don't wear a mask. Well, and I've noticed the people at the checkout don't wear masks.
I even chide them now. You know, I went into a shoe shop in Glastonbury, right? It was Clark's Shoes, a huge shop in, well, a street.
Oh gosh, Clark's Village is quite stringent about things.
Oh my God! So I went in there, and immediately this woman looked at me. She had a face thing on.
Oh gosh!
And it was like I was some kind of alien, you know, because I was the only person in the whole place without a mask. And I walked in, and she looked, and she tapped her assistant. She went, you know, and I looked at her, and I went, you know, I thought, I just can't resist it. It's like, and I went straight over to her. I walked straight up to her like I owned the shop, and I said, "I'm exempt." And they just went, "Okay."
Okay.
That was the end of that, you know?
Exactly. And I thought it was interesting because I hadn't been in London for a long time, and I was getting on a train in London for the march. And the tannoy said, "Oh, you know, please wear a mask within the station and on the train." And then it said, there are some people who are exempt. So if you see anybody without a mask, it's because they're exempt. So they're trying to diffuse the anger of the mask wearers against the non-mask wearers. So I thought that was interesting. So I didn't wear a mask. So I thought, well, nobody's allowed to challenge me because I'm exempt. And I'm exempt, in my view, because you know, you can't breathe with them on anyway. And
no. I mean, with the Agenda 2030, like I said earlier, people don't have to know everything about it, but I think if they just have a little overview of it, that's all they really need, isn't it? Because, you know, just to know enough that this is going into a very dark Orwellian place.
Yeah, it's going into a very dark Orwellian place, and it is really about a technocratic priesthood in charge of everything. It's a technocratic movement with AI and to also merge eventually. The end game is to have us all living in the smart cities and surveilled, and data harvested. Data is the new gold, which is why the impact investing is so important to the banks and the corporations who have put all the human capital bonds together. So this is all. Data is the new gold, it's the new oil. It is, without GDP, the only revenue will be data and green taxes. So you can see how far that is going, how controlled we will have to be, because we will not have the economy that we have now. And this is the whole idea of crashing the economy. And it will crash. It will crash this winter.
When do you think? What are you hearing? What's going to happen?
I think it. Well, I'm looking at all the financial markets and stuff, and quite honestly, it depends. At the moment, we're facing a worse recession than the 1930s, and people are being forced into unemployment. When the furlough scheme ends in October, I think it's really going to kick in. Really going to kick in.
And then it'll be like, right, now we'll have the reset, yeah?
Yeah, and that's when the reset will come in. I think the markets will tumble. I think the property market will crash. Everything will crash. Now, that's sad. Okay, I'm sorry, this is doomy, gloomy, whatever.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's the latest critique from Jason Pierce Anderson. Sandi Adams, have a wonderful evening.
Well, this is what I think is planned. Whether they will bring something else in, a second wave that it will be deadly, whatever
the vaccines,
because they have said this. They have. Let's face it. They've done the whole predictive programming on this. The fact is that if enough numbers come against this, and 26th of September, go to Trafalgar Square, go and just march for your lives, and your souls, and
because that's what it is.
The generations to come, just go and march, and
it's soul theft, Sandi Adams. It's soul theft,
Yes,
that is what it is.
Absolutely, 100%.
They're taking your spirit and they're taking your soul. When I was there on Saturday, you know what? It was people coming up and say hello, and we'd all chatting. Do you know what? I felt like I was with my family,
Yes.
Now, my real family might say, yeah, because you're all bloody nuts, right?
Yeah, that's what my family say.
Well, my family, it's like the pot calling the kettle black, they're all my family. But do you know something? It really was. And what I loved about it, Sandi, it wasn't all these freaks and nutters and conspiracy theorists. It was normal people, right?
Exactly.
Good, solid, normal people who had the courage to come out and actually risk arrest. And like I said earlier about the police, they just, what could they do, And that is it. You're fighting for the future of humanity. And you say, oh, come on, Jason, you're exaggerating. No, I'm not. When this blooming reset comes, they'll be cashless. They'll take your blooming cards away. Then it's microchip, or you can't do any shopping. You'll have your little card. You'll have your vaccination card. And if you're a naughty girl and boy, we'll switch you off, and you won't be able to do anything about it. And it's just so bad. And I think it's terrifying.
It is. I think we're in a major spiritual battle here, and
it's a spiritual battle.
This may to some people sound a bit woolly, but it's more of a spiritual battle. And I believe that there's so much going on. To be honest, I believe that there are very good people in our parliament. I believe there's a lot of battles going on that we don't know about. And I believe there are people, really good people, it doesn't matter what politics they are, Labour, Conservative, whatever. I believe there's good people trying to battle this out on the inside.
With conscience, their conscience and their ethical alarm bell is still in its pristine state, right?
I believe there's good people everywhere really working towards this, and it means that the more we stand up and march in London and really make ourselves known, the more support they will get in fighting from the inside. And they need to be the people that will guide us through to the next level, because I believe that what we could have is a different kind of reset, and that would be brilliant. A reset that will actually benefit humanity and not benefit the technocratic, non-human agenda that we're facing at the moment, where they want to merge us with machines. That is against God. I'm sorry.
Elon Musk. I mean,
really got into it. Yes, I feel we should, because it's almost like, these technocrats, people like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, all of them really put themselves above
they think they're God. Yeah.
And they think they're gods, and they want to merge us with machines and create this hideous technocratic environment, which doesn't have any room for love.
And they've got to be stopped, Sandy. And there was that great guy earlier on. I forgot his name now. I'm hoping he'll come on the show. He was in America, an ex-veteran. He said 6 of his friends have killed themselves in the last 6 weeks or 10 weeks or something. And he said, you know what? He said, well, because of course we got no guns. Australia's given their guns taken away. Now, and I'm not advocating getting fighting and killing. I'm not into that. No. And I'm also not saying love is the way. No, that hasn't got us very far. But what's happening in America? He said, listen, I'm warning the government now. There's millions and millions of people with guns, ex-veterans who said they will fight for their country and battle for freedoms. So when your freedom's getting taken away, and I think it's a double-edged thing, the UN is apparently doing the Australia thing, but it's a double-edged thing. I've said this for years. This system's like a Frankenstein's monster, Sandy, and it's like, in one sense, we want it to die, because every time you have a crash of the markets and everything, and then they give monster resuscitation to a Frankenstein's monster that's killing us. And it's like, well, let's start again. We'll build it up again. No. We need a whole new system. But we don't need a reset and something else, which is the same kind of slavery, you see. And I said in my book years ago, I said, what was the chapter called? A Call to All Good People in Government. And that's what I think's happening. And that's what inspires me about Dr. Adil and those people that are speaking.
Absolutely.
They're saying now that we need to create some kind of massive fund somehow, that if doctors and nurses come out and whistleblow, I've got another nurse next week coming on the show that was in Trafalgar Square who wants to talk about what she knows. Right. Then we can support them when they get fired and when they get suspended, which they will, because they've got mortgages to pay and they've got mouths to feed.
Exactly.
And that's why most of them are keeping short,
Yeah, they have to. They've all signed protocols in order to not talk about anything.
They've had to sign stuff, Sandy.
Yes, they've signed. Some hospitals have initiated protocols where they have to sign to say you mustn't speak to the public, you mustn't speak to the press.
Or you're fired.
That happened in America, yeah. So, I mean, it is quite frightening, really. What's going on in our hospitals, and I do believe that the NHS is being dismantled during this time, and it will be privatised, and that's a big thing. Nobody's realising that either. I think we've the mainstream media have got a lot to answer for, and actually, whilst we're on that subject about mainstream media, the way Piers was treated on Good Morning Britain.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, they started off by being really nice to him, didn't they?
And saying, "Oh, you are obviously targeted," and blah blah blah. And then they went for the jugular, and they'd planned to bring 4 people in, and they went for the jugular. I thought he held his ground very well, and I'm glad he went on, because actually it showed them up, I believe, in the light that they are, which they are basically people who live in the ITV BBC bubble in a studio.
They're prostitutes. They're bloody prostitutes.
Yeah, they don't think for themselves. They're reading scripts every day. They don't know anything. And it was interesting because there was a weather girl who started arguing with Piers about climate change. And what's her name? I've got her name written down here. It's Laura Tobin. This Laura Tobin. Actually,
we should have played a clip of that, actually. But go on.
Yeah, I mean, she had a go at him, and that Dr. Hilary Jones. I'll talk about him in a minute. But Susanna Reid was awful too. They really hounded on him, but he held his own, and I felt. But it was 4 against 1. It wasn't a level playing field. And what I noticed is that this Laura Tobin looked a bit familiar to me, and I realised that she'd actually called an Australian politician called Craig Kelly. She'd called him a climate denier months ago when the bushfires were happening in Australia, because he had said they weren't caused by climate change. that actually he'd seen fuel dumps, being done to create the fires. And she called him a climate change denier, and he called her an idiot pommy, an idiot pommy or something, and said she wasn't qualified to say, because he had to retract it and say sorry. But basically, she's trained. Now, I did a little bit of research into her. She's been trained by the World Meteorological Organization. She did her degree at Reading University in meteorology and physics, but then she went and did an extra course in the World Meteorological Organization, the WMO, which is actually a parent organization. The parent organization of this organization is the UN Economic and Social Council, and it's based in Geneva, and it is responsible for actually creating people that they teach climate change, basically, and it's run by the United Nations. So she is, she's been brainwashed into this whole agenda, and of course she's going to call people climate deniers.
Shall I play a quick clip of it?
Yeah, do, because yeah. I wish they'd talked about ice core samples or something, because I would have just floored her.
I'll just play just a brief clip of it. I know, because we're running out of time, but I just want to say before I play this clip, I'm not saying I'm a great judge of character, but what I will say is I remember when I went in the lockdown, I drove to Glastonbury. Oh, you were there, weren't you?
Yeah.
You saved me, in fact. You gave me a lift.
I saved you because they were after you. The press were after you.
I think the police were going to bundle me, So I had all my camera stuff. And I was on Glastonbury tour with Piers, and it was so brilliant. I'm not joking. And I spent an afternoon with him, and I really like him. I think he's a lovely man. And when he was in town and that, he's so dedicated to a better world for humanity. So they had but I really admired him for going on. It's just very interesting. He was saying there's a Black Lives Matter demonstration down the road. No one arrested anyone there. Why? Yeah. Because it's George Soros funded. That's why, right? Yeah. So.
And Extinction Rebellion at this moment are on the streets of London again, stopping everything. Not an arrest in sight. It just is revealing itself to be the beast that it is, really.
It's beautiful. We're in a great time, Sandy, where Dracula's finally got nowhere to hide. I know I keep saying this Dracula analogy, but the light of truth is on Dracula at last, and it doesn't want to be seen. And what can it do but just shut everyone down? But my God. Like you said earlier on, there's a spiritual battle, and I believe that good always beats evil.
Absolutely.
If not here on higher levels, there's no doubt about it.
I mean, it's always got to hang around, because you can't have one without the other. But it's when one becomes too, the balance is wrong, and at the moment it definitely is.
And it's like, I think what's happening is forced its hand, hasn't it? So it's forcing it. We can see the slavery now so much more clearly, and people have had a whiff of how terrible it can be. Sandy, anything else you want to mention before we? I'll put Piers. There is a fund you can help Piers with.
Yes,
but believe me, he's worth it.
His crowdfunders got taken down, because he's got this £10,000 fine.
Yep.
And I think he needs supporting financially anyway, because he's putting all his efforts into this, which he doesn't get paid for.
And most people, Sandy, are too scared to talk because they fear criticism. Don't forget, if most people speak out now, they can be seen on Facebook. Their current employer is going to fire them, or they won't be employed in the future because people check your records. So if you haven't got the courage to speak yourself, don't beat yourself up, but fund people who can.
Yes, absolutely.
Like Piers Corbyn and Sandi and other people,
Yeah, at the moment, I mean, I don't think I've ever asked for any money, but there might come a time if I do this full time that I might do in the future. But until then, I'm happy to support Piers and everyone else. And I think there's quite a few of us are going to speak on the 26th, and I've put myself forward. I will support him. And I think we've got to make this a bigger rally than last time if we can, because we have a very short window. Winter is coming. We've got to get it done.
Winter is coming, yeah. I was just going to see if I could find that posted again, but I don't think it's there to show people again. But they can go back. I showed the poster, and I might slot it in here when I edit this. But we've got a short time period, but a small portable of opportunity now. Look what is happening in Australia. It's completely draconian, and that is coming here. There's no doubt about it.
Coming here. And the thing is, I mean, this is what gets me. It's almost like a mirror. we are not the conspiracy theorists. The conspiracy is what's being done to humanity. That the New World Order or the United Nations, WEF, Club of Rome, they have conspired against humanity. That is the conspiracy. And the more that people can wake up to that, do your own research. Look at my website, sandyadams.uk. All the information is there. 30 years of history of Agenda 21, 2030. Look at it and research yourselves. You know, it's all there. Everything is there for everybody on the internet. You won't find it in the mainstream media because they are all scripted puppets like GMTV, who completely thought that they had really got one over on peers, but they didn't.
They didn't at all. You could see who was the wise one on that show, that's for sure, Sandy, you know. But yeah, anyway, look, thanks for joining me, Sandy.
Thank you.
Again, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm sorry about...
I hope you've enjoyed the fun, but look.
I'm so sorry. I feel really bad, you know, I seem to be the bringer of bad news.
No, you're not. You're the bringer of good news.
I didn't think we could win it. And you have to know what you're facing in order to fight it.
Sandy, exactly. You're the bringer of good news, and you do it in a spirit of great energy as well. And you're trying to just, what you're doing is warning people. It's like a map, isn't it? You're saying, look, we're here, you know, down by there, that's what they're doing. And if you don't believe me, they're doing that down by there, you're here. Look what they wrote when they were by there. Yeah,
exactly.
And that'll prove it. And like Sandy's showing you a map. And there's also ways on the map that you can get off the map and create a different map. Or you can get stuck in the revolving door going round and round and round. It's time to step off the map now, their map, and create another map of freedom, joy, happiness, and love for this planet.
Absolutely, 100%.
You know?
My little granddaughter started school today, and my son sent me a photograph of her. And just looking at that photograph, I thought she will not grow up in this technocratic, hideous world that they have for us over my dead body. So
well said, Sandy.
For the grandchildren and the children, you know.
Well, there's I said it up there on Saturday. There's a new world that's really wanting to be born now.
Yes.
Right. And it's waiting within the womb of possibility. But as midwives of the future, what we've got to do, the people that are here now, create the future with what you do or don't do. Absolutely. We're going to have to push a bit.
Yeah.
You know, just push a bit. You don't have to damage yourself, but just get off your asses and do something.
Get off your asses and do something. Get to Trafalgar Square on the 26th, 12 o'clock, 26th of September, and just be there for freedom and everything that we hold dear.
I reckon there's going to be over 1 million people there. There's my book, ladies and gents. Get my book, Support Me, Emergency Transformation of Human Beings. And there is good news in there as well. I make jokes. Listen, we need to dance with laughter into the future to change things.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not doing
do lots of dancing on the 26th.
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
Thanks, Sandy. Lots for coming on the show. Love what you do. Really appreciate your work. Thanks very much. And thanks everyone for joining me. Clive DeCarl's on the show again next week. He's a great guy. He's coming on. He just tried to ring me now. I'll get back to him in a minute. Lovely man, and lots more wonderful warriors. I'm hoping David Icke will be on the show. That'll be the kiss of death for me, the final kiss of death. I'll be, you know. But he's been on my show quite a lot of times.
It'll be great.
Gareth Icke was on the show last week, so they're a wonderful family, lovely people, what wonderful spirits, you know. And thanks very much, everyone, for watching, and I'll see you next time.